Okay. I chose this topic because I have loved cars my whole life. I have gone to the car show every year. Even as a little kid, I pointed out car brands. I still do that, but I used to just notice the common ones like Ford, Honda, Chevy, Toyota, and so on. But as I got older, I wanted to know if there were any Jewish car makers, but I don't think Lamborghini, Ferrari, Maserati are Jewish. So I did some research and found a man named Josef Ganz. He was Jewish and he designed cars. I wanted to know more about what he did, so I did some more research and found this book. It's over there. In it, I learned that Ganz designed the first Volkswagen Beetle, but he never got credit for it because he was Jewish. He suffered a lot because he was Jewish, partly due to the American car companies. Next slide. Josef Ganz was born July 1st, 1898 in Budapest, Hungary, to a Jewish-German dad and a Jewish-Hungarian mom. His dad was a journalist and diplomat, and his mom was a progressive woman. He moved to Germany at a young age. Josef was a born technician. At age 9, he applied for his first patent for a safety system for the electric streetcar. Ganz, at age 17, made a technical contribution to World War I by developing an automatic aiming device for anti-aircraft guns. He went to Vienna to study mechanical engineering. When he was in World War I, he worked on aircraft carriers as an engineering technician. Oh no, go back. Because he loved cars, he wanted to take this research from planes to cars, making them safer, faster, and more efficient. In 1923, he created his first design called the Ganz Kleinwagen, which means really small car. It was a 3-seater with the driver sitting in the middle and the engine was in the back. And the total weight was less than 3 people in the car. There's a picture of it, it's the bottom one right there. There's a drawing of it. In Germany, most people drove motorcycles because they were cheaper, but Ganz thought they were too dangerous and not practical. In 1923, he was riding his motorcycle down a muddy road and he crashed, shattering his left leg. This accident made him disabled for 2 years, and it made him want to make this car even more. He also wanted people that had a motorcycle license to be able to have a car license. He started writing for Klein Motorsport in 1924 about innovative auto engineering, which changed its name to Motor Critic a few years later. That's the magazine on top. He designed a car prototype called the Maybach in 1931. This car was what the Volkswagen was based on. That's what the magazine picture is. Next slide. As far as my research shows, Josef Ganz lived his life more like a secular Jew. He never appeared to be very active with the religious Jewish communities that he lived in. The people he worked and lived around, based on later in life, might not have even known he was Jewish. Based on my correspondence with Paul Silverwood, the author of the book on Josef Ganz, he was probably an atheist. He lived a modern lifestyle for the times. He was not married, but lived with a longtime girlfriend who was Catholic. No matter how religious he was, Ganz suffered from being a Jew. Next slide. Ganz, Ferdinand Porsche, and Edmund Rumpler, who is also Jewish, were all given a task by the German government to make a practical car at an affordable price. Rumpler and Ganz got taken off the project because they were Jewish. Porsche got credit for making the Volkswagen Beetle because even though most of his ideas were from Ganz. Porsche did not steal them, but there was a lot of free exchange of ideas at the time. After a few months, Ganz lost his job as the editor of the magazine he created because he was Jewish. He was arrested in 1933 on falsified charges of blackmailing the German car industry and fled to Switzerland in 1934. He went from earning 30,000 Reichmarks, which was a nice salary for the time, to nothing in a few weeks. After Ganz lost his job, All he did to occupy his time was sketch out ideas for the cars, thinking he could get some credit. There was a lot of anti-Semitism in America as well as Germany at this time. Henry Ford and General Motors. Next slide. Henry Ford wanted to keep the amount of Jews in his factory to a minimum. Henry Ford bought his own newspaper and had an article about how bad Jews were, blaming them for the Depression, strikes, and financial scandals. Henry Ford got an award from the Nazi regime. He also republished the Protocols of Elder Zion. It stated that Jews plan the fate of the world, be it financial catastrophe, be it war. Henry Ford was so anti-Semitic, he placed his newspapers in the dealerships so people would read them while their cars were getting fixed. He was hoping those people would start believing in anti-Semitism also. Next slide. Oh, wait. Hitler was an admirer of the American mass production techniques and an avid reader of the anti-Semitic writing penned by Henry Ford. "I regard Henry Ford as my inspiration," Hitler told a Detroit news reporter 2 years before becoming the German Chancellor in 1933. He was such an admirer of Ford, he kept a life-size portrait of him next to his desk. A U.S. Army report by investigator Henry Snyder, dated September 15, 1945, accused the German branch of Ford of serving as an arsenal of Nazism, at least for military vehicles, with the consent of the parent company in Dearborn. The Snyder report, which is at the National Archives, states that American Ford agreed to a complicated barter deal that gave the Reich increased access to large quantities of strategic raw material, notably rubber. That is a picture of Henry Ford getting his award. Next slide. In the 1930s, General Motors was the leading car seller in all of Europe. Hitler knew this, so he started to work with them. GM and Ford had 70% of the market in Germany and retooled to supply the German war effort. They helped the Nazis even when America was fighting them, just so they can make more money. GM/Opel was the largest producer of trucks for the German army, according to the U.S. Army reports. In August 1938, 1 month after Ford received his award, a General Motors senior executive received his for his distinguished service to the Reich. The GM officials were aware of the conversion of one of their German plants to aircraft engine production, while they resisted such conversion efforts in the U.S. due to money. Next slide. Despite some anti-Semitism lingering in the 1950s and 60s, the changes in the car-making business have been dramatic. They are hiring Jewish engineers and Jewish workers. But Ford, to me, has changed the most. When in the 1930s, they had one of the most famous anti-Semites running the company. Now Ford has a Jewish CEO, Mark Fields. That's a picture of him. Next slide. Meanwhile, Ganz survived in Switzerland during the war, but was in constant fear of being deported back to Germany. Life in Switzerland was terrible for him because all of his work had to be done in private, so he didn't make any money, and he sued over his patents but found no satisfaction. Most of his family died in the Holocaust. In 1951, he immigrated to Australia and worked for General Motors. He suffered from many heart attacks in the early 1960s, and he died in 1967 at the age of 69. Next slide. Those are some of his prototype pictures. I think the three towards the right and the one on the bottom are all the Maycocker ones, and this one, we don't know which prototype that one was. Next slide. Recently, Ganz has finally started getting some recognition. Paul Soper's book was published in 2009 and 2015. Top Gear presenter James May opened an exhibit called 13 Cars That Changed the World at the 2015 London Car Show. It included a 1934 Standard Superior chassis which was developed according to the patents of Josef Ganz. That's the picture of the chassis to the right. May said this about Ganz. This was the work of Josef Ganz, a respected Jewish engineer. It is widely accepted that he came up with the basic layout and philosophy of the Beetle, Ferdinand Porsche, encouraged by Hitler. It didn't actually steal the design because there was a very free exchange of ideas at the time. But the idea for the layout is pretty much borrowed. Without Ganz, the standard Superior Beetle would probably have been different. That is that standard Superior.
Any questions?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't think that there are any museums other than that car show. But there's a website, josefgans.org, that has some stuff about it. And my mom sent a message to him, and he sent us back that told us that he was secular and probably an atheist. Yeah.
Do you know if he got any recognition while he was alive for his work?
Probably not. If he got any recognition while he was alive. Probably not, because he wanted to keep it secret that he was Jewish, or else he might also still face some anti-Semitism and.
How long did he live in Australia, and what was his life in Australia?
He lived there for the last 16 years of his life, and it wasn't as bad in Switzerland because he didn't fear that he was going to get deported back to Germany or go to jail or anything like that. But he still had to work in private and couldn't take credit for most of his work. Yeah.
So I'm wondering what you think about today's world, and if there was a Josef Ganz, such a talented engineer and designer, how would you treat it today? One of the major car manufacturers.
He would be respected, but because there isn't much anti-Semitism there today, but I think he would just be respected.
I think people would know he would be respected
Yeah. Yeah.
because he wouldn't be as afraid.
I just want to thank you for a real teachable moment. I knew nothing about him, and that was really, I don't know who else knew about him. You follow a lot of people in the news there, so congrats.
I also just, I'm impressed about, well, I really like when you talked about Henry Ford. I think in some ways people don't know that much about him, and that Hitler was an admirer of his, and just like how
Did Porsche actually agree with Hitler in kicking Ganz out of the project?
No. He asked if Porsche agreed with kicking Ganz out of the project. Ganz and Porsche were good friends, and